Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and welcome to the first club-by-club preview. Taking a look at the Crows today. So, as I always do, take a look at each club, work our way through all of them. And as you can see, we've got the players we're going to take a look at on the tabs above. So if you're interested in any of these players across the top there, feel free to take a look. I haven't included Jordan Dawson or Rory Laird. I feel like it goes without saying that they're locks and very reliable guys. Here is also a team me and Lang has put together. Just spitballed a few ideas and put together a team. And this is my original thoughts and my first official side, I guess, of the year. But I'll tell you what, I'm back into recording and it's great and loving it. But it comes with its frustrations. I've already filmed this video. For God's sake, I filmed it. But I had to restart my computer. And I've got a few tabs open. And I've done a full video preview of the Crows. And I've had Fisher playing in the goddamn background. I don't know if you guys can bloody hear that or not, but this is my original one. Look, and as you can see, here's a fantastic video. I'm not sure how well this is translated, but fantastic preview, great preview. And Fisher's bloody set in fucking outside lands is playing. Oh God, what a disaster. Anyway, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I hope you had a good one. I'm presuming that I'll probably put this after Christmas because, you know, it's Christmas Eve and it's bloody summer and it's pouring rain out there. It's pissing down. Shorty was hopeful for a little stand-up paddleboard on Christmas Day, but I'm not sure how that's going to go down. I actually went for my first stand-up paddleboard in a long time a week ago because like 12 months ago I bought a stand-up paddleboard. I was on placement after study. We went stand-up paddleboarding. I was like, oh, this is pretty sick. You know, I've always wanted to surf. I've always been like, shit, it'd be amazing to surf. But quickly found out it's pretty bloody hard. And I'm not that good at it. So I thought maybe a happy medium could be me just standing up, cruising around on the stand-up paddleboard. But that's not too easy either. I went down to Barwon Heads the other day. I was falling in left, right and centre. People, you're driving along and you're like, wow, that looks graceful. They're just, you know, rolling along, stand-up paddleboard, looking beautiful. Far out, my quads are burning, mate. Oh, but it was good fun. Like obviously, you pick it up after about 10 minutes, and was a little rusty, but it was good fun. But yeah, not so sure I'll be getting out there on Christmas Day because the weather looks pretty damn average. But yeah, I hope you guys have been well. It's great to be back into it, and appreciate all your comments the other day. Obviously, it's late December, so we can't nail anything with too much confidence on the previews. But it's nice to just put a few players on the radar, see what we're thinking, and throw a few ideas around. And the first guy I wanted to talk about was Daniel Curtin, and of course he doesn't have any AFL stats because the man is a draftee. And look at those numbers. I mean, he's a man mountain for an 18-year-old, and 175, I believe he is. Where are we? Yeah, so 175k, and I think rightly so. He'll be one of the most popular rookie options in the back line for us right now. He was talked about as, at times, number one pick. I mean, it always seemed to be Harley Reid, but he was definitely talked about as maybe a number two selection and slipped down a fair bit. Oh, gee, I was really hoping he'd slide all the way to the Cats, but he didn't quite, and the Crows snapped him up. Tom Doedee out of the Crows lineup goes to Brisbane, I think it was. Curtin looks a likely replacement there. So he's a beautiful left foot kick. He looks like he's ready to go. He's played some senior footy already. So clearly we've got to see how he goes through the preseason, how he's travelling, get into that round one side. But if he does, and I think at this stage, he does look like one of the more confident guys we can bank on from a rookie perspective. So he's been in a lot of teams that I've seen, and I think that's fair enough. One of the more speculative selections is Josh Rachele. Now, he's a talent, we know that. He's awkwardly priced. Traditionally, I don't like looking at players around this price, but if you look in our forward lines, it is a trash heap. There is minimal to look at. It is bare as anything. So I feel like we've got to go searching for something. Is there a player that can really burst out and even just average 92? Because I feel like any player over at 90 average this year is going to be half a chance of a keeper for our forward lines this year. Now, I'm not saying he's going to do that this year, but I'm thinking he's got a bit of Zach Butters vibe about him. You know, spend a lot of time on the half-forward flank early in his career, nipping around, doing some pretty crafty things. But when he does get midfield opportunity, he can be golden. Now, before, when I was looking at the centre bounces, it was very interesting, and I was doing it live and made a couple of good discoveries. This is now not so live because I've already filmed the video, but I was looking at how much time did Rachele actually spend in that midfield. And there were some occasions where he did spend over 50% time in there. And if you look at that, it's round 3, 5 and 6, even a bit of time in round 4. And if you look at Josh here, round 3 goes 90, not bad in round 4, 95, and nearly 90 in round 6. And then if you go, okay, that's an interesting formula. When else did he play 50% in there? Round 16. What did he do? He tons up. And he only tonned up one other time, and that was in round 1 when he didn't really have too much centre bounce time. Now, obviously, it's a bit of an inexact science because it's, there are a lot that goes into these scores, not just lining up in a centre bounce, but it does go to show that when he's in there, he can have an impact. And it is interesting that some of the games that he did have more time in the centre bounce, he actually had some of his highest scores for the year. Now, clearly the risk factor is that he's awkwardly priced, and he could just have another year where he averages around 80 or whatever, because he had a nice first up year and a pretty solid second year. You'd expect him to build on it, but we're not going to want an 82. So this is an absolute watch. Keep him high on your radar. I think, like we'll talk about in a moment with Crouch and Berry, the Crows have a lot of, I guess, boring, slow types in that midfield. Dawson and Laird are guns, but they've trialled Crouch. They've had Sloan in there, Ben Keys, Sam Berry, who I'll talk about. Maybe they need a bit more pizzazz, a bit like what Port Adelaide did. They were a bit sick of the Wines and the Bokes, and they got a Rosie and a Butters in there. Took them right in the guts. I just wonder if Rachele can do that. That's what we're going to have to look for through the pre-season. And with what we've got to look at the moment, he's one of the ones to be a little bit more optimistic about. Now, Matt Crouch, I'm not as optimistic about. Now, he was great last year, particularly in my draft side. I was able to pick him up sneaky late in the season, and he averaged some really good numbers. Obviously missed a lot of footy, both because of his body struggling, but also out of favour. Now, for him, I think he's about 490. Gee, that sort of 400 to 500 range in the midfield, you'd want to be confident Caleb Sarong style that they explode, because it is a no man's land. I mean, it's different to the forward line. You could get away with a bloke averaging 93, 94, and you'd be happy with that. The midfield, we need him 100 plus minimum. 105 ideally if we're going to keep him for any length of time. So I know Crouch has averaged some good numbers in the past. We see a 110 there, and even a 110 as recent as 2020. But he just seems to me, not only with his struggles with his body the last few years, 7, 11, even 16. I guess that was 2020. But yeah, not the greatest with his body of late. But I just even get the feeling that as soon as something defensively is going wrong in that midfield, or the Crows are leaking too many goals, or they need a bit of pace, I feel like Crouch is going to get turfed. I feel like that's the sort of type of player he is. A bit of that, whipping boy that he's been, a bit like Bryce Gibbs all those years ago. So, you'd want to be confident that he's on top of the ground fitness-wise and job security-wise. And even then, I just don't see him bouncing back to 110. I couldn't see him breaking 100. I think he's every chance to average high 90s, but there's just a few too many red flags for me to jump all over that one. Now, this next bloke is actually a really interesting one, and another one who treated me kindly in draft in 2022. Picked him up probably midway through the season. He was available as a forward. Had some huge numbers late. Absolute tackling machine. And I don't know what happened last year. Now, Crows fans would be able to tell me better. But, hey, okay, what's going on here? He went from... Well, he really cemented himself in 2022. Averaged 86.9. And most of us were thinking, okay, he's probably going to boost his way up through the 90s now. And it went the total opposite. He played the first 3 games and really struggled to find the footy. He's always been able to tackle. This is very evident in his numbers here. Some huge tackling numbers. He averaged touch under 10 tackles a game this year. And look, the bloke could average about 50 just purely from his tackles. He only needs to find the ball about 12 times to get about 80 odd. But That's not too bad for SuperCoach. Don't know if it worked as well for the Adelaide midfield, because it was all well and good when he was getting around 15, 16, 17 touches, but gee, when he was having barely over 10, clearly it was the tipping point to get rid of him from the side, because just struggling to have any offensive impact, even though he was a good defensive player. So I don't know if he's going to return to the side or not. That'll come down to a good preseason or not. Now, as you can see here, Laird, Dawson, consistent performers in the middle. Crouch in the back end, Sloan and Keys throughout the middle periods, chopped and changed. But the Crows have been looking for another midfield to really help these guys like Laird and Dawson out, and I don't know if they quite found it. That's why I think Rachele could be a really interesting option to keep an eye on. But equally so, if Berry could have a better pre-season than Crouch and Keys, maybe he's the one who's getting these sort of Crouch-like numbers in the back end of the year. Maybe he is in the round one side and averaging 88 or something like that. I think he's an interesting one because he could be just as likely to play 4 games, be delisted by this time next year. Or, he plays most of the games, cements himself. He's averaging 9 tackles a game and nearly gets 90 for his whole year per average. But I don't know which way it's going to go, and no one really could. It's definitely the one that we're going to have to watch closely, because at about 220-something, it's a ridiculous option. Like, 226 is crazy cheap for what he could do. But like I said, we could just see him running around in the sample just as much. So I think the Crows have a little bit to offer. You can definitely bank on Laird and Dawson. I reckon Curtin's going to be super popular. Watch that preseason. Rachele, I'm really optimistic on. Watch him closely. Crouch, not so much, but some people might be more enthused than me. And Sam Berry, it could be anything. Just for that price and for what he's done before, he'll be hoping for a big preseason, and let's see what he can do. But if you feel like I've missed anyone, certainly chuck that through in the comments. And I'll be doing club by clubs. We'll have Brisbane next, but I'll try and shake it up with some different content as well, just so it's not the same sort of club by club every time. I'll try and get a bit of different videos popping through for you guys. Also, still rolling the TikTok content out, so if that floats your boat, feel free to check that out as well. But let's see if I haven't had any other bloody soundtracks playing through this one. So hopefully I've got this one up in a couple of days' time. Enjoy your Christmas. Enjoy the Boxing Day test if that's your go. I'll certainly be watching it, so I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.